Hello and welcome to the Literary Bar. How are you doing? I hope great. We're fully into the rainy season. Please pay attention to NIMET and be careful out there. Clean your environment and do not dump refuse indiscriminately so that rainwater can find its path. Fellow Nigerians, please stop stealing manhole covers. People fall into these holes and drown during floods. We have to be alive to thrive. My guest today is an author and a cultural historian. Intriguing, right? Join me after the break to find out more. June 12 is an epochal date in Nigeria because of the cancellation of the June 12, 1993 election that was adjudged the freest and fairest election in Nigeria. Abiola was deemed the winner. Alas, he never claimed his mandate because the IBB-led administration nullified that election. June 12 is now an official day celebrating Nigeria's unity in democracy. However you choose to celebrate June 12, remember that democracy thrives in peace and dialogue, never in violence. My guest today has written an interesting book that speaks to democracy and political shenanigans that occurred in the colonial era in a town that he's familiar with. The violence that erupted after political actors were blinded by ambition and the dire consequences that followed is a lesson that is still very relevant today. Olutayo Irantiola is a literary and a cultural aficionado. He's a published poet and a biographer. The Okeho Exodus is his debut published drama. His play With Our Uniform was performed at the Lagos Fringe Festival and at the SOS Theatre Festival International, USA. He's the Atokun of Yoruba Latokun, a stage Yoruba cultural renaissance show, a translator of repute and a peer consultant based in Lagos, Nigeria. He's so much more than all of this, but we will stop here and then continue with the conversation with him. Hello, Olutayo. How are you?
I'm very fine. Thank you for asking.
I'm just like this so that I can look like someone from Okeho.
Thank you. That gladdens my heart.
Are women ballets? No? A woman can be a ballet.
Well, they hold other cultural titles,
yes,
but not necessarily a ballet. Many times women are given titles relating to market women, leader.
Iyaloja.
Yes, Iyaloja, Iyalode, things like that. So they are lovely.
We'll get that. There's a character in this book that appeals to me, and maybe I'll follow her. We'll get to her.
Okay.
Jing.
All right. Okay.
First of all, well done on this book. It is truly amazing and captivating. When I started, I couldn't stop because it was quite captivating in the way you managed for such a young person to really go back to history and paint this very vivid culture that, you know, as you're reading, is almost playing out in front of you. So I'll say well done.
Thank you. Before
we go in, I want to read something that Professor Segun Badigeshi said about this book. He said, Irantiola has succeeded in weaving seamlessly the goals of truth-telling and entertainment and has demonstrated fidelity to historical accuracy while also achieving artistic excellence. This truly captures all that has happened here. He wrote so much more than this.
Thank you.
First of all, what made you write the Okeho Exodus? Why is Okeho?
Okay, so I'm from Okeho. My parents are both from Okeho.
Okay.
And in 1975, when they firstly did the history of Okeho, titled Iwe Itan Okeho, my maternal great-grandfather and maternal grandfather, that's Pastor Moses Okeshiji and Reverend John Adegoke Okeshiji, they were both part of the committee that did the writing. That is one. Number two is that when Professor J.A. Ajayi, or late professor, right, of the Department of History, University of Ibadan, was writing an article titled The Iseyin Okeho Uprising of 1912 to 1917.
Yeah, that's where this happened. The setting is in 1912 to 1917. Yes.
So when Professor Ajayi was to do that article, my maternal great-grandfather was one of those I consulted. So it's like I met these materials at home.
Oh, right. That's lucky.
Exactly. So my grandfather, luckily, my late grandfather, passed those materials to me. So I got them internalized somewhat. the more I grew, the more I encountered other books. In 2017, Professor Gbadigeshi did the translation of the book from Yoruba into English and titled it Okeho in History.
Okay.
He updated it from what it was, from the original version, and it's something that is acceptable to everybody who is from Okeho. So all of these things fed in my creativity, and I've been lucky to work on the biography of my maternal grandfather in my 20s. That was launched in 2010.
That looks like yesterday, because you don't look older than 21.
So I've been able to immerse myself in the story over the years, and that's what makes it quite seamless. And I can picture some of what happened around that time when it was signed.
So in a nutshell, what was the attraction? I mean, we're all from places, and none of us has gone back to go and start writing our history. Where is Okeho? What is Okeho known for?
Okay, so Okeho is an agrarian community in Oyo State.
Okay.
To a large extent, in its own right, it used to also be like a community that controls its own affairs. Now, one thing that you would have noticed in the book is that, number one, Okeho is a confederation. And it started from the days of the Fulani Daome invasion.
Yes, I saw that. So not Fulani headsmen and whatever.
No. So from the days of the Fulani Daome invasion into Oyo North, encroaching into Nigeria, right? Generally, the southwest.
Yeah, in talking about that, we need to bring in now one of the main characters in this book, which is the guy who became the first Onjo. That's
Oba
Adeshu,
yes.
Yes. I don't want to murder his name and all that. And the conversations that happened with him and the Mogaji that led to this confederation.
Yes. So what happened is this: Mogaji happens to be like the chief of staff to the. As of that time, it was even the person, the quarter head of the Ijo people. So this is what it is. Before they called other communities to come join them around his own location, they were all independent communities.
Yes.
And that's why they tried doing it in such a way that currently every quarters within Okeho still has its own Bale, which is the quarter head, and they all look up to the Onjo of Okeho to direct the entire community.
Okay.
And some people really say that Onjo title, as it were, is the Onjo of Ijo before it became the Onjo of the entire Okeho.
Okay.
So, things keep evolving in terms of how they see these titles. Some people will tell you that it's actually the Onijo. That's because there was a particular king that they said loved dancing to Oro.
Yes, for Larry.
Exactly. So some people say that exactly. Oh, you've read the history very well. So some people would say that it's Onijo that became clipped and shortened into Onjo. You understand? So all of those things are there, and
I mean, you can't give me this book where you put in so much hard working and I wouldn't read it. I read every bit of it, and it's quite interesting.
Thank you.
So some of the things, I mean, some of the things that come out from this book, the themes are there. It might not be what you recognize, but to me, there's a whole list of the things that the ambition that unfolded after the death, the passing of the first Onjo, where everybody kept coming out from the nooks and crannies, going to meet the Mogaji. They were not interested in it. And what is the actual process from becoming an Onjo?
So the actual process of becoming an Onjo is that there are two royal families in Okeho.
Yeah.
The Adeni and the Etsinholu. So it's taking turn after turn.
Okay.
When one is done, ascends the throne, after he completes his stamp through death, most times, and which we usually say a king does not die in Yoruba land. You say that he went into, you understand, he ascends into to meet the ancestors somewhat. So the second royal family will take it. But I looked at it from the perspective of what's happening now in the society.
It's very,
exactly.
It's
because
relatable.
you would see that every family now had expanded so much. In fact, within each royal families, you can find 10, 15 different surnames, which is just an evolution of the names of their fathers that they keep picking to be their own surname over years and over the generation. So you find out that currently what we see play out largely now is that when one king dies, there are a lot of interested parties to the throne that come out. So I had to bring out that particular situation into play
into
to see
Prince
how people are lobbying,
and co.
exactly, lobbying for the throne to say, I would also love to ascend this royal throne.
It's interesting that this was in over 100 years ago.
Yes,
and then people are seeking to go and bribe really the mortgagee, or some people say now that if I understand dollar, you know, so you bring the appropriate amount of money so that, but it didn't quite work out in this case because it still went to the person that was supposed to be king, which is Olukitibi.
Yes.
So it's always so easy to blame the colonial masters.
Okay.
That they brought problems and stuff like that. But in reading your book, I don't think the colonial masters were the biggest problem.
Okay.
It was, I saw this thing of ambition that this gentleman is there, and people did not even understand his relationship with the white people. So when the likes of Captain Ross and the other Ageles, yes. So when they came with their rules, they just assumed that there was a collusion between Olukitibi and all that. And then the rabble-rousers came and started causing trouble.
Yeah.
That's my own perception
of
it. The colonial masters did their bit, but it was not enough for what those people, Adewamiwa and co., went behind to go and rally people to come and start fomenting trouble. Okay, so
there are two sides to the trouble, right? That of Adewamiwa and others happened just, it's a game that happened before the ascension to the throne of Olukitibi. And that was my creation, actually. It's not like I had it in history. There were a lot of turmoil as of that time.
You have a poetic license to do that.
That's one. Number two now is the issue that the Onjo had with the bales, the quarter heads. And that's where the issue really came from. Now, there's this thing about communication. As a communications person, when you're introducing even a new rule into a family, when you have 2, 3 children, you have to ensure that at least you get this thing spoken to these children. They understand what you are saying, they can follow it through, and they would accept it as you've brought it eventually. So it might need some coercion, it might need some conviction, it might need time for it to mature into that point. But the colonialists never saw things like that. What it was on their own mind is, okay, we thought it's no more time for you guys to defecate on the dump here. Start digging pit latrines in your house. And that's where the problem started from.
Yes, but I'm saying it wasn't him. It wasn't Olukitibi's fault. The white people came with their rules. And if you look at some of these rules, they are not terribly bad. But it's just communication.
We can see it now.
But then they couldn't.
Exactly.
Like,
so this is what is happening again.
Like having a toilet in your house. Can you imagine now going outside to use it? People be like, are you a crazy person?
Exactly.
You know, and then the felling of trees. You look at they're coming from, okay, maybe the environment, want to protect the environment and stuff like that. But then again, speaking to ambition, Captain Ross and the other gentleman were also ambitious people. They wanted King George to recognize that they're able to corral these local people and whatever, and so they can also get their own promotion and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So their ambition played right into the ambition of the local people here as well, and then we have this conflagration.
Exactly.
Really. So. But you said you were keen on relating the aspects then to today.
Yeah.
What is the major similarity between then and now?
So humans will always be humans regardless of the generation in which you fall into, right? So playing on that particular part, what it is that in hierarchies, the next person should ensure that the information is well distilled to the last rung of the ladder. So this is what I mean. If the colonialists are giving instructions, yes, they were not talking directly to the townspeople. They were speaking to Olukitibi.
Okeho.
Exactly. So they were speaking to him, and speaking to him, in passing down the information to the last set of people, what they believe is that this thing is influenced and is just conniving with them, just choking it down their throats. So that's the point that we can all take as young leaders, as emerging leaders, to say, okay, let's move from this level. Let's know how to ensure that we distill the information correctly to the next rung of the ladder. And through that, would avoid a lot of conflict that happens in between and on our journeys.
There was not a lot of emphasis on taxation, which was part of a problem that people suffered, like say the about women's rights and all that. But I didn't see that taxation was a problem
So
here.
the thing is that taxation came in various forms.
Okay.
One of it, which is very conspicuous in this book, is that
the volunteerism. Men had to volunteer.
Men had to volunteer.
Women
they could not go to their own farms. They had to go build the road. So that when the white man's vehicle is coming, it can easily travel into town. You understand? So all of these things really caused issues. And that's what I say again to people, that this thing happened even before the Aba Women's Riot.
Yes.
But this is a silent history that had not been told via various platforms. Yes, it's been written, it's been pushed, but if someone is not towards history, you will not go look for it. And that's why I'm glad that I had the opportunity of putting it in a literary way that people can engage and enjoy.
Okay, so now let me take the sides that appeal to me, the not so serious side of it, but I mean, it was for my pleasure. The character of Jinjin and Olojamo. I could see that she was an emancipated woman, and she wanted to know why she would not be permitted into the Oro. Yes, so, and that's, for me, I mean, it's good to be curious. The patriarchy plays out. You say, okay, only men can do this. And I like where she said, if it's for the spirits, let the spirits handle their matter. So men too should not participate if women can participate and all that. So it was quite interesting seeing how that played out. And eventually, Olojomo's lost towards his wife, made him lose his senses, you know, and a part where he had to go and build some contraption to carry him. I mean, what inspired that part for you?
So, number one, the major, the major god that is worshipped by the Onjo clan is Oro. So Oro takes a very major role.
What is Oro?
Oro, it's a god in Yoruba land. Something, it's a rite somewhat, wherein you'll find out that it's only men that do it. They will tell you that when it's time that they are trying to do their Oro rites, women should not come out, women should stay indoor, and things like that.
I wish you research on that and tell us how that came to be.
So seriously, it's not like I have the full details of it, but I had to read more on Oro, and that's what made me come up with that part to say, okay, let's still talk about what they believe in as of that time and generation. That's one. Number two is, in my search for things around Oro, that was where I found things like Igbalu and all the rest. So it's something that I really read up on so that I could put it together. But the interesting side of Jinji and Olojomo is just that I'm trying to still create that despite all that is happening, there are still some loving affairs going on around. If you look through again, there's still one Oga Koda. That's another character.
The one that divorced his wife?
Yes.
That put said, okay, let's...
And said they should go sell her off.
Because the white men allowed for women to get a divorce. It was easier for them to get diokbomu.
Yes, diokbomu. Yes. So that was another thing that caused conflict.
Yeah.
Apart from going to farm, they allowed divorce.
Because of the patriarchy.
Yes, they said that children should start receiving vaccination, which people considered looking like poles. Like that is not healthy. And the digging of latrines and all the rest. So all of these things led to a series of conflicts. Men were not sure of their control over their women again. And you know, that's the thing that they value most. That's what they value most as of that time. To say, okay, I have a woman in the house. I have many children through her. And so all those things were really, really, really annoying them. Now, for the Oga Akoda, the woman too was trying to push out to say, let me be. You can't be enjoying the festival, getting intoxicated. And now, let me use this word, he wants to shine in the presence of his friends and colleagues.
Well, happening today.
Exactly. So that's what she resisted, and it turned into another thing up to a point that they had to go ring a bell on her to say she's available for sale. But do you know
nobody wanted. He wanted up for £15.
Exactly.
And nobody could afford.
Do you know the truth? Is that I read that as the history, as in the biography of someone. So I saw a raw biography of someone.
Wow.
And that was what happened between his parents as of that time.
Okay, we'll take a short break now, and when we come back to conclude, I want to talk about Olukitibe himself and the bravery that he demonstrated in this book. See you after the break. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're talking about this exceptionally good play, a historical account of what happened in Okeho, a town in Oyo State. And we're here with Olutayo Irantiola, the amazing author. So this book is about regicide, revolt, and relocation of the Okeho people. Yes. So before we went on break, we've talked about a few things. And one of the Onjo Olukitibe specifically, tell us a little bit about him. I was quite impressed with him, the bravery he showed, the wisdom, and his obvious love for his people, which maybe was misunderstood, that led to this downfall eventually.
So Onjo Olukitibe, from what I heard, happens to be like a colonial police. It was in Ibadan for many years, working with the colonialists before he eventually...
Was an Ajele?
Yes, before he eventually became the Onjo of Okeho. Now, situating it back, you know, when Arile Shere called other quarters to come, they all were at Okeho Ahoro, which is staying in the valley, on the rocks, as it were. Those parts are still there. And that's what we tried illustrating. Because the actual Okeho Ahoro
is that him? Is it supposed to be him?
So it's an illustration now of Olukitibe. So the Okeho Ahoro Hill is like that, as it is. We just put the image of Onjo Olukitibe on the cover. So going back, they were at Okeho Ahoro. But when Olukitibe became the king, they were still there. Until all these issues came up strongly, and eventually the white men had to instruct that they should leave the place. So where his issue started from was there was an assumption that it was imposed by some particular group of people, because the king before him was actually, what's the right word to use? I think he was deposed. Yes, he was deposed before he became the king. So that's part of where the issue started from. Then, by the time it came into being and all of these instructions were coming, it made it look stronger. But he had to prove to his inner cabinet much more that he is not part of it. That these were things that were being sent as in instructions from the colonialists. That's what happened to him. And eventually, he had no control over it. because there were already dissenting voices amongst the Bales, and they went as far as engaging other people from other community. That's the Isenyi people.
Yeah.
Isenyi to Okeho is about, I think, 18 miles, thereabout, maybe 24 kilometers, very short distance. So they were engaging people from the other community as well to come support them. But they themselves also have their own issues as of that time with Isenyi of Kalao. You understand? Because I had to look at all the major characters in terms of the throne as of that time. If you look at it, there was no role played by Obaladigbolu, but I mentioned him because he was the Alaafin of Oyo as of that time.
Yes, yeah.
Then the Olukitibi, Onjo Olukitibi, and Asen Okolao. Right. So all of that time, they were also having their own issues. So it was easy to get the buy-in of other warriors from Isenyi to say, we need to carry out this thing.
Yeah.
And so it was the Bales that were dissenting that really led that the uprising against Olukitibi. But he tried to be brave in his own way by
He was.
Yes, fighting back, both in words and in action, and also standing up at the end of the day.
And actually giving his life.
But the interesting side of it now is this, is that at the end of this script, I had been able to encounter some of the generations of Olukitibi.
Oh, wow.
And they told me that it was not that the entire family of Olukitibi was killed.
Okay.
Some of them escaped to his mother's community, because his mother is not from Okeho. They escaped to his mother's community. It's just a few that relocated back to Okeho, even till date.
Oh, wow.
Some are still.
That should be about 100 years ago, so it's still very possible.
So some of his great-grandchildren are back in Okeho.
Are there. And I hope they are proud of his bravery.
Yes, definitely.
He stood, he didn't run, and everything went. In coming to the soldiers at some point, I saw where they thought they could deal with the white people, with Captain Ross and his people, and they go into the cave. They felt, it won't be accident, they could do stuff. But at some point, instead of keeping watch, they decided to celebrate or eat so much. They almost fell asleep. It's almost like the Bible where Jesus said, "Are you supposed to be keeping watch?" and then and then you fell asleep. So at that point where they fell, you could see the mockery in Captain Ross and his people, like, look at them, they're preparing to do all of these things to us. So it talks about people being vigilant. And I think that in our lives, in everything that we do, this democracy we have, we need to be vigilant in how we're protecting it. Politicians today would give money, knock people's heads, instigate riots and all of that. And while we're fighting ourselves, they're having fun somewhere. Okay,
so see, the narration, what you said is very accurate. And I'll now give it from the view of the book. Where were the colonialists at as of the time that they were looking at them?
Yes.
If you look at the history of the colonialists and where they usually locate their homes, their guest house, their offices, is usually on the hilly part of the community.
Oh, wow.
That's why you have Captain Boat's stores in Ibadan. In Okeho, there's a place that they call guest house. It's the colonialist house. And it's also on top.
They could see them.
Yes. Same thing in Isenyi. Because it's also a hilly community, they have their residence also on the top of a hill.
So they could just see everything.
So for them, they can have an overview, bird's eye view, of the entire community. So those ones were eating, trying to say, let's prepare so that we go and meet them, and maybe when they are coming in from Ibadan or something. And that's where they saw them.
And everybody was ganged up.
And the same way they are talking about governance now. They are up there looking at everybody, trying to see
a panopticon.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, when they want to strike or come up with something, they will look at something that say, okay, let's just give them this, and we are fine then. Okay,
before we round up, I'm going to let you tell people where this play is going to be staged, but I want to say something about this book. It's written simply. It's an opportunity for people who do not really understand Yoruba to actually read and learn, because the translations are just there. The The Yoruba language is very present in the book, but the translations are there. So it's so easy for you to read and understand. And for now that we're all trying to get closer to our culture, I think books like this are very, very timely and very, very important. So again, I'd say I enjoyed it. You accommodated, all of us by including the historical accounts, then the comic relief side of it, very easy language. So let us know where this play is going to be staged.
Okay. So special thanks to Professor Abdurrashid Adeoye. He's a person who got it to students of the Kwara State University.
Okay.
And they will be staging the group 2 of the current graduating class. Will be staging it on the 26th of June.
Okay.
At the Ultramodern Performing Arts Theatre by 2 p.m. On their campus at Malete in the Lorin Kwara State.
Okay.
So
this is the first staging
yes,
of it?
Yes, this is the first staging. So I'm very sure that after that we'll have the second edition based on what you see it translated into.
Okay.
And also have all the names of the cast in the book. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the first time that it will be staged, and it's something that I implore people to come enjoy and see what happened over 100 years ago being brought to life by brilliant performers, I would say, because they've been trained for 4 years. And this is part of what they would use as part of their graduation requirements.
I hope you bring it to Lagos at some point.
Yes, we are looking at that, getting it back to Lagos.
When you say brilliant performer, that's also a very brilliant author who gifted us with this historical account. And
thank you.
A pleasurable read, very timely, very relevant. And you can see all my markings inside. So I did justice to the book.
Thank you.
I did. And there's a lot of music. So for people who like dance and drama,
yes,
you accommodated us all here. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you too.
And keep the works just coming. I wish we had more time so that we'll go into more itsy-bitsy parts, but hey, go and watch the play. Buy the book first and go and watch the play.
Thank you so much.
So I want to thank you, Atoku. I'm really impressed by your knowledge of history and grateful that you chose to curate these stories for the rest of us. We hope you continue with your research and keep educating us. And to you out there, remember that what you do today will matter tomorrow. So that when our stories are told, your contribution to history will be a noble one. For more, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. You can watch us on DSTV channel 408 and on YouTube. Make your life a great story. My name is Chinedu.